I'm your host, John Myers, live from Stillwater, Oklahoma. We have got a great show tonight. It's John Myers. Hey, everybody. Gotta have my notes. It's John Myers from the Kicker UnMasked Studios. Gotta have my notes. Alternator. Hey, everybody. We have fun. Hey, everybody. Hit like and subscribe. Right here, right now. It's John Myers. We like to give stuff away. Alternator. Post some more pictures. We got to thank Steve and Becky live from Stillwater, Oklahoma. Don't forget Texas Roadhouse right here, right now. Hey, everybody. Don't forget right here, right now. We have got a great show tonight. Hey, everybody. Had a great dinner tonight. It's John Myers. Right here, right now. Had a great dinner tonight. So, hey, everybody. So, housekeeping. Had a great dinner tonight. So, alternator. Housekeeping. Housekeeping. 7:30 on Tuesday night. Housekeeping. From the Kicker UnMasked Studios. Housekeeping. Right here, right now. Hey, everybody. So, it's John Myers. Hey, everybody. It's John Myers from the Kicker UnMasked Studios. Hey, everybody. From the Kicker UnMasked Studios. It's John Myers. Right here, right now. We have got a great show tonight. Hey, everybody. We have got a great show tonight. It's John Myers. Hey, everybody. Right here.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Thank you for being here. It's Tuesday night. It's Unmasked. I'm Aaron Malin, your host. Tonight, we've got several people hanging out with us. We've got Jacob, my co-host. He'll be here in the chair after we do a little interview. We've got Ernie, of course. Sandy is back in action. So, ladies and gentlemen, say hello to Sandy. And, of course, Bill Frog working the social. And tonight, we have a special guest. Chris with Wetbox. He's hanging out in the green room right now. We're going to bring him in just a minute, so stay tuned. We'll be right back.
It's been a long road since the original kicker christened that first pickup truck. It kicked off a car audio renaissance, and upgrading your music in a vehicle was a requirement. America's music machines became living loud over your passion, your emotion, your existence. Outdoors or on the open road, your sound is Kicker.
Welcome back. So as I indicated, we're going to bring in Chris with Wetbox. Wetbox is actually a dealer of ours, a kicker dealer in Florida. And Chris has been making some really interesting, unique, and powerful audio systems for the marine environment as well as the side-by-side environment. So here to tell us more about it, we're going to bring Chris live into the feed so he can tell us exactly what he's doing. Chris, welcome. Thanks for being here tonight.
Hey, how you guys doing?
We are having a great time. We just had a little dinner. We always get together as a team and have dinner before we go live. So we have a little round table discussion. And the very first thing I'm going to ask you, Chris, and we talked about this before we decided to go in here live together, is the name Wetbox is awesome. How did you come up with Wetbox?
It's actually Wetbox by MDA enclosures for multi-directional audio. So we wanted people to understand that these are all weather, enclosures. And then of course, multi-directional refers to some of the different functionalities of our enclosures. So that's kind of how it came to be. It was a few of us friends sitting around and kicking some different ideas, and that's what we landed on.
It's fantastic. Well, it certainly is memorable. So we love that about it. So MDA, multi-directional audio, and tell us, what does that mean exactly?
So we're really, really about directionality when it comes to audio. I go back almost 33 years now in audio, and directionality has always been something I've been after, whether it be car audio, even PA system audio. So MDA enclosures was a specific enclosure within the Wetbox product line. That's a multi-directional enclosure that offers forward sound projection, down and backwards. In a pair of enclosures, you have 6 drivers. So the whole point is, as a standalone, it's kind of an all-in-one solution for getting sound where you want it, to your ears and not to your feet. So.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's funny, we're saying this, and I have images here. I should have just pulled up an image already. I'm going to pull up the latest one. Ernie, can you show this latest one that we've got here on my screen? This is an image that I think you sent this to us today. And
Yep.
So this is what you're talking about. So walk us through this.
Yes, basically this is a kiosk display to be able to show for anybody at a trade show, or even, if we present it to boat manufacturers or anything else, where they can see, as a standalone unit here with just these 2 enclosures, what they can do. We have these things on film doing, 3/4 of a mile of sound, and that's not just noise. That's you can literally repeat the words you're hearing back. So they're incredible. These, when we started these enclosures, we bought every 6x9 you could buy on the market, gave everybody a fair shot. A lot of things have changed, in the 33 years. Some companies that were top tier, now bottom tier, and all different things have changed. So we thought, okay, it's time to, give everybody kind of their fair shake at it. And we tried out everything that's out there. And we can say without question that these 6x9s Kicker's putting out are the best. They're doing 130 decibels. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
Yeah, 130 decibels. And frankly, I haven't even given them full power yet. Those are the speakers themselves that have done 3/4 of a mile. It's truly, in our opinion, I got to be honest, I was not a big horn fan leading up to it, because the background and history of horns comes from obviously PA systems, and those applications, you had a sizable horn and a big driver, and those two balanced each other very well. And then when it first introduced itself into the marine field, I mean, it was just all horns, no mids, very harsh. So that was yeah. And if it's not good, I don't care how loud it is. And the irony is, through testing of a lot of those still original designs, a lot of the early horns, people perceive them as loud, and they're actually not any louder. It's so harsh, you think it's loud. But if you actually put a decibel meter, it's not louder. So it was funny when I heard that yours were coming. I spoke with John, who's my guy, and said, man, if these things
John Schneid.
Yeah. He's the man. So I was like, hey, if these things can be the first really truly balanced, driver that gives you the benefits of a horn, but yet you have all the meat potatoes that you want behind it, it's going to be something special. And I'll tell you, it's proven it. And again, when I tell you I've got probably 60 6x9 sitting in my shop, all different brands, and we're talking within a brand, I might have 3 different tiers that they had. And right now, those are the best. So they're pretty amazing.
Well, thank you. We appreciate that. And hopefully some of our audio engineers will watch this live, or maybe they'll see it tomorrow or the next day, and they'll get to hear your praise and they'll appreciate it. And you probably know this, but for the audience at home, one of the things that's really unique about this horn design, actually you can see it better here, is we use what's called a Tractrix equation, which simply means the horn has a continuously increasing radius, so there's no standing waves, which is the harshness you were talking about. A traditional horn that doesn't have this constantly increasing radius does have a standing wave set up inside the horn throat, and it gives that harsh sound. So yeah, it's loud, but it's harsh, as you said, and that's why these sound magical. And whether they're low volume or high volume, whether you're close to it or 3/4 of a mile away, it sounds the same because of that Tractrix geometry in that horn. So I appreciate you pointing that out, because that is certainly a benefit.
Well earned, well deserved. It's great stuff.
Thank you, thank you. So this is your favorite 6x9, and that's what the picture's taken down. So that's what's in that picture that we showed everybody. So in that picture, Ernie, can you put that picture back up there, please? I want to point out, because one of the things that Chris is talking about is the 3 directions. So in this image, you can see here, obviously the front firing, and then you've got the bottom, the down firing, and then on the other side, there's another 6x9. Is that correct, Chris?
Correct. And a lot of time and development went into, making sure that these speakers could all work in conjunction with each other, sharing a certain size airspace. We really, really are pleased with what they do. Yeah.
So what's the enclosure itself made of? What material?
So it's a proven substrate that's been out there. It's an aluminum, poly aluminum, basically stacked material. So it's a very, very dense. When you tap it, it's not a flimsy ABS. It's significant. It feels more like a subwoofer enclosure. And I think that's part of why they're doing what they're doing. Yeah, very stout, all weather. The material's been used for different applications and has been used in all weather applications for probably 30 years. We're just, I think, the first to use it for audio enclosures.
So it's pretty unique to what you're building in the marketplace.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. As far as we know, we're the only ones doing it. And that's funny because that line is still pre-launch. We kind of, when COVID hit, we were ready for.
Sorry.
No, it's not like it's a secret or anything.
Okay.
Just, we're getting ready to go to the trade shows with them, and then COVID hit, and so in the interim we pushed more in the side-by-side, the custom molded parts, and so that kind of took over. So we're still kind of, coming back to the real proper launch and really getting the whole world to kind of hear what these things can do. It's mostly about physics. I mean, you have to have a great driver, but at the end of the day, where it's located, the directionality of it is super, super important. And the main thing that these do is where they can be mounted. You got the size of an 8-inch driver, but that can be mounted in a much shorter size.
Yeah.
So
right.
Correct. So in boats, center consoles, especially here in Florida, I mean, everybody has them. You can't mount typical speakers without smacking your face into them. Whereas these, you can walk under them. So now you have a solution where in the center of your boat, you have speakers firing downward on center and then forward and back. So whether you're walking from the front to the back or the back to the front of the boat, it can be a 50-foot boat. You have balanced sound and an even sound staging all the way throughout the craft.
On your website, I was checking out your website earlier, and you've got some great information. And I wanted to show you have a really unique mounting solution that even raises the pods up higher. And hey, Ernie, can you pull up my laptop so Chris can talk about that unique solution he's got? So here.
So that's correct. Yeah. So typically, obviously, when you see a typical hanging speaker, let's say you have an 8-inch, you've got the driver size itself, and then you have its grill, and then you have the bracketry that goes on top of that, and then of course that clamps onto the bar. So in certain applications, you can be seeing on an 8-inch driver as much as 11 inches of hang. So with these enclosures, you have 2 options. One, you can have what you see here, where the bar is absorbed through the enclosure, and that houses up to 2¼ inch pipe, or that whole structure there is missing and it direct mounts to the top itself. So it just depends on what your application is.
Okay.
I've actually got to update those photos. That's our old. We made these originally where people could clip them in and out from boats to their side-by-sides as seasons change. Yeah. So we did away with that. So it's got a different, connection point now at the top, all fully sealed and all that good stuff. So this was a really early iteration of that enclosure.
Constant improvements. Well, I like this. Let's see if I can get this picture here. The termination you've got on here is really nice too. This this binding posts.
Yep.
So it looks like you could actually biamp these. Is that the idea?
Yeah, absolutely. Depending on the configuration, whether people want to run, 2 up or 4 up, you have the ability to wire it. We found, especially like in the side-by-side application for these, the downfire can be extremely strong.
Yes.
So this gives you the opportunity to run, say a 4-channel to it, and then, gain down that 4-channel a little bit to where you're not taking 130 decibels, right in your face.
Yes.
So it gives you the adjustability to, set those up separately, whether you're running 2 or 4. 4 of these things is 12 drivers. And, we've always, I was super, I think best thing that happened to me was my first car was an 82 Camaro. And I got to learn so much in that one car about, reflection, sound reflection, driver size. It was one of those few cars that had 6x9s in it from the factory. And, I was a professional installer putting in the highest end, 6.5 components in every vehicle you can imagine. But I'll tell you, entry level 6x9s in that Camaro couldn't be touched. A 6x9 is it's the lost magic in my opinion. It's an amazing, driver with huge output. So that's why we focused on that and all the benefits you get from it. So when you consider 4 of these has 12 of those, and a lot of people don't realize a 6x9 is over 2 times the size of a 6.5 or an 8. I'm sorry, an 8 relative to a 6.5. So when you're comparing a 6.5 to either an 8-inch driver or a 6x9, that's twice the surface area. That makes a big difference on sound.
It's funny you say that about 6x9s, because when I was in retail, we kind of had the perception, and incorrectly so, we had the perception that 6x9s were for the guy that wanted it loud but not good. And the reality is a 6x9 does not change the sound because it's oblong versus round. It simply gives you more cone area. And of course, cone area means higher SPL. And as you pointed out in that Camaro, if you could put, we used to joke, you could put a tweeter in the back dash of a Camaro and make bass out of it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that was, yep.
Everything just gets amplified, and
exactly.
you get about 18 dB of increase, or excuse me, 12 dB of increase, 12 dB of increase by putting a mid-range on the dash of a car or a pickup. And so with a 25 watt amplifier, it can sound like a 200 watt amplifier on your dash. So
well, that's what the Camaro did. It showed you dash. It showed you what the dash could do, what a sub can do behind that glass. Then opening the glass and seeing the sub go away, it's like, wow, it just exemplified all of these things that we strive for. And then in that Camaro, I think ended up doing 58 speakers by the time it was all said and done. And,
what?
Yeah.
What?
It was a lot of weight. But the doors, literally, I mean, there wasn't a piece of sheet metal left in that door. But that also showed me, because I had the system was incredible before that, but it was all still trapped in the cab. And then the minute I created those doors, which multiple drivers, I think it was 12 drivers per door, if I'm not mistaken.
Jeez.
But then that showed me projection. And that's something we really, really bring to the table in the side-by-side market is, speakers and doors. When you can open those doors and you're at the camp and you're, having food or cooking, that directionality of opening those doors makes all the difference. So, there's just a lot that was learned from Camaro, that kind of transitioned throughout the years. That I was really lucky to start with that car, really.
The first subwoofer I ever heard in a car was in a Camaro. My buddy Doug Bishop in Colorado, and he had it was Blue. What was that company's Blue something or other? Blue, maybe it was Blues, but he had 2 12s in the back of the Camaro firing off that glass. And I was hooked after I heard that. It's like, oh, this is unbelievable. I have to own this. And of course I was poor and I couldn't afford that system at the time. But when I got into retail working there, of course I started buying stuff. But man, once you get that bass experience in a car, you can't go back. And now you're getting that bass experience in side-by-sides and in marine. Actually, you mentioned doors. I want to show some images to our audience of the doors, because one of the things that you do so well is airspace behind a speaker. And so I want to show that off in some images here.
Awesome.
Ernie, can you pull up? He's way ahead of me here. Okay, so I'm going to see if I can maximize this. So tell us what we're looking at here.
This probably isn't the best example. Let's jump to another one. Let me see if we can show you maybe the X3 parts. Might be a little better. Let's see what else you got.
I've got
Talon would be good. Yeah, any of those. That one would be great. Yeah.
Okay.
So what we've done, so first of all, because I'm just crazy about 8s and 6x9s, we have yet to do any parts with 6.5. So this is an example of how we've brought 8s, to the doors of a Honda Talon. So, there really wasn't anything before. There might be a little plate, flat piece of ABS that somebody mounts a 6.5 in.
Yeah.
These are, complete enclosures, fully sealed, that go and even recess within that door. There's some other pictures you can see, but the whole thing is its own enclosure. And so basically, we get as much airspace as we can. In this car in particular, the best that was in it before was was an 8-inch with, gosh, I don't even think it had 0.3 foot of airspace.
Oh yeah,
And we
mid-range.
got, yeah. And of course, everybody had a lot to say about that. And then, we brought a 12 to the table with, a little over a foot, but yet it's still fully hidden. And that's the thing I've always been into, whether it was my Camaro or I had a boat with 68 speakers. I loved hiding everything. Yes, that's a good example there. So that shows you, we're using that air cavity within the door itself as well. But that's what I've always loved to do is hide as much as I can, and
Yeah.
kind of surprise you. Even our demo vehicle, we have a side by side that's got 42 speakers now.
Oh my
And
gosh.
yeah, and you wouldn't know. We pull up next to you. In this industry, you've got a lot of sound competitions. You have these
Yes.
big stereos that look a lot bigger than they actually sound. And then you'll see us, hammering the trails full speed, and then we'll pull up, slide next to you, and kind of surprise you. You don't know what's in ours. So that makes it fun for me. I like the creativity side of it, really.
Well, you touched on something that I think we should spend a few minutes on, and actually it says it on this on your website too, is it doesn't matter how good the speaker is, if you don't install it correctly, you will not get the results you're expecting. And 100%. So you have mastered the proper installation of our speakers to get the expected results.
Absolutely. Yeah, we get great results. Your subs, do extremely well in our enclosures. It's about airspace. It's about the rigidity of the form. Obviously, if you can't have an enclosure that's got 3/4 inch birch or MDF, and you're relying on plastics, the thickness, the density, the rigidity of that plastic is super important. So, I guess that's what makes us different. If you look at some of our cars like the X3, other competitors have 10s, and then you see our 12s next to it, and the enclosure is 2.5 times the size of of the other stuff out there. And it goes in the same spot. But part of that is because we do a manufacturing process I don't think anybody's ever done. So we're able to physically get shapes that other people can't, even if they wanted to. So that gives us that airspace that we're after.
Hey, Ernie, can you pull up my laptop again? I want to show what Chris is talking about here. So, Chris, you mentioned that you're able to get airspace where others can't. How exactly are you doing that?
Well, I can't say too much about that.
Okay. I get it.
I can't say too much about that, but I could give you an example. So if you look here down at the speaker on the left, so this is an example of where the competitor had an 8-inch, and that 8-inch sat right where that 10 does. And it pretty much was in a little box that was 3 inches tall by 10 inches wide, and that was it. So this enclosure goes all the way down into the lower pan, and you can see even on the left and right there, that's airspace that parallels the seat. That comes up instead of just underneath. So that's anywhere we can capture airspace, there it is. On the other side as well, there's never been a dual subwoofer enclosure in a side-by-side that we know of. That enclosure is huge. That thing's got, I think, 2.1 square foot. And when you have your seat on, you don't know it's there. So that thing goes all the way forward, all the way down to the floor pan, grabs just everything possible. The X3 is another. Do you have a shot of the X3?
I think I do. Let's see here.
It would be the one where my wife and I are. So in this bottom right-hand corner, that's an example of the X3. That's the same premise. So you can see this typically is where people put a 10. You're looking at a 12 there. But if you look at how big that enclosure is compared to that 12, it's not just a teeny box around a 12. But same thing, if you look on the right side where you can see the logo, that's another example of us coming up around the seat and literally just grabbing every bit of airspace that you can get. And
what material is this stuff we're looking at?
It's a polyurethane, which is a very dense material. It's 9 times per pound more than ABS. That's the unfortunate thing. They're not cheap to make.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not only are they made by hand, they're made in the U.S. and they're made out of stuff that's it's just better stuff. And then it gets coated. That's coated in high-end bed liner as the external finish. So you also get scratch resistance that you don't get with typical plastics.
Well, there's plenty of cheap stuff available, so it's nice to have an option with some really good stuff that doesn't have to be cheap.
For sure.
So that's great. And we've got some other great images here. This is a nice one too.
Yeah, so that's showing the X3 part. So that's the subwoofers that we were just looking at. So you can have driver and passenger sub. You're seeing the enclosure flipped upside down there. So 2 12s. And again, I think we're the first to do that. And then the doors here, you've got 8-inch in the doors, so that's your front doors there, and then your rears are underneath. And then this is our multi-directional enclosure, this is more of what's featured in the side by side. They have a little more of a rugged look
Sure.
versus the boat version. Excuse me. Yep.
Wow. We've got a couple of questions. Let's take a question from the audience real quick. Sometimes I forget that we have an audience because I just get so involved in the conversation. So first question is, Kibbo, Wetbox going to have demos at Slamology? I'd love to see it in person. Will you be at Slamology?
I don't even know what that is. Sounds good though.
Okay. Okay, Slamology is a great event. It's in Indianapolis, and it's it's kind of like, I think it's the first or second really big show of the season. And we're going to be there in force. We actually take our XRV out there, which is our massive over-the-road truck that hauls all of our demo vehicles and stuff. But I don't know, it's probably kind of short notice for you being a business owner and everything, but it's a great show where people would really embrace your product. So something to consider for maybe next year.
When is it? When is the show?
Ernie, do you have it on top of your head, or Bill?
Bill says June 10th and 11th.
June 10 and 11 in Indianapolis.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely like, if nothing else, I can fly out and check it out. That's what this year's is about kind of seeing what the big shows are. Being in the side-by-side market primarily, there's always something here in Florida. It's like we just came from a big event last weekend. We're going to one next weekend, which, by the way, we're in a hotel room here in Orlando. This is our vacation weekend. So, all the cream-colored palm trees. This is not my house.
I'm not judging, man. It looks good to me.
So that's the goal this year. We just came from the Miami Boat Show. The goal is to kind of see which shows are best, what's the best fit. To where we can obviously, I've done trade shows with a number of my companies, but want to be properly prepared when we do introduce ourselves at those. So yeah, any information on any of these shows that are worth doing, let us know, because we'll definitely check them out.
Well, and since we have such a huge presence at Slamology, if it's appropriate, perhaps we could even have some of your product on display, even if you're not there. So just something to throw out there for you. And
Sounds
of course,
great.
I'm talking.
I don't see why I can't be there.
But so what's the next question, Ernie? We had another question from the audience. Sarah, hello, Sarah. Any cool way of hooking sound up to an ATV? So yes, that's exactly what we're talking about, Sarah. And Chris has some great solutions, and that's what we were showing you here. So I'm not sure what kind of ATV you have specifically, but go ahead and talk about ATVs for just a moment.
I guess that's the first question, if she means ATVs or side-by-sides. For actual ATVs, four-wheelers, we don't have anything designed or developed for that at this point. But she might mean side-by-sides. I'm not sure. Sometimes people synonymously.
Interchangeable, sure.
Yeah.
Well, Sarah, if you check out the website, it's wetbox.net. Is that correct?
That's
.net?
correct.
Yeah, Sarah, go to wetbox.net and you can see all of the offerings that Chris has. He also has a section there where you can put in the kind of vehicle that you have, and then he'll give you updates when he has something for that vehicle. So definitely check out his website. So let's see, we covered sort of the side-by-side, some of the special things you're doing there. We talked about the multi-directional. And is there anything else that we should be talking about or focusing on?
Yeah, I just think in general, kind of our goal again is to go vehicle to vehicle and find creative solutions that all kind of, utilize that same thing. We're not really doing anything that's different than hasn't been done in high-end audio for decades and decades. The side-by-side market's just kind of, they got in one lane, and have kind of, done a lot of different solutions. There's inexpensive solutions that are great. There's middle lane sort of stuff. And then our goal is to kind of be the best of the best. It's a great product with a great community. I mean, that's been the one thing about this is just the people I deal with are really, really cool people, and then you'll be out riding and they'll stop you and flag you. Dude, I bought this, and you're like, I have no idea, oh, you're Mike, and then, so it's been, I mean, we're still a pretty new company. I mean, we're still, it's my wife and kids, and we have some employees, but I mean, I got my 10-year-old son sweeping. I got my daughter, she can solder the heck out of anything. And my wife helps with packaging. So it's been a cool family thing. And And again, just the community. My other companies, I've always kind of had products for the rich and the mega rich and great people, but not my, yeah, some billionaires. You know what I mean? I can't relate to a billionaire. I mean, I can try all I want, but I don't know what to talk about. Whereas in this lane, you know, these people are like salt of the earth. You know what I mean? We're all into the same thing. So it's
Now
been really
you've got
cool.
me wondering now, Chris, what was your previous company that you interacted with billionaires? I've never even met a billionaire.
I've had a few. I started early on as a professional bronze sculptor and was showing, you know, in galleries all throughout the country. And
Okay.
so I mean, Stephen King
Wow.
has my stuff. Larry King has my stuff. I mean, so that kind of those type
Uh-huh.
of people. And then I started a manufacturing company for fine art display, which was Precision Pedestals. So that, you know, if you picture paintings with high-end frames, we were the high-end pedestal makers. So if you had
Okay.
a $1 million sculpture, we made what it sat on, sort of thing. So that introduced us to a lot of people and trade shows, which was kind of gave us a lot of experience. And then most recently, I had one of the top wedding and corporate bands in the state of Florida. And so we would do, you know, events for some of those people. So that's,
You did events as well, like planning
yeah.
events?
No. So we were a top wedding and corporate band. So I started a high-end band to do, if you're a, well, kicker, let's say you guys have a product launch and you bring in all your dealers and you were to have a huge band, we were your people. So we've done that for large companies, high-end weddings, you know, places like the Ritz and those sort of, you know,
Yeah.
high-end deals. And so yeah, so I fronted the band. It was, you know, my business, and then did that for 12 years. Just recently, kind of took a dip from it.
So you're a
Um,
musician as well?
vocalist, vocalist.
You
That's
sing.
it.
You sing.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, yeah. So
Okay.
that's it.
In my head, I said, Aaron, ask him to sing something. I'm not going to ask you to sing anything. That's too short a nose, but that's
Probably not
really
a good
amazing.
idea.
So this is actually this is something I want to focus on for just a minute, because one of the things that makes Kicker unique in our industry is that Steve Irby is a musician. And the whole purpose of creating the Stillwater Designs, now Kicker, was to reproduce live music through PA systems, huge PA systems, and then bring it down to car audio. And the love of music is what drove Steve Irby to start the company. And
that's
as a
cool.
musician, as a vocalist yourself, you know that if a speaker isn't reproducing your voice correctly, it just doesn't sound right. And that's
100%.
what you do, is design a system that sounds like the way you want it to sound, your voice coming out.
For sure. Yeah, and that's one of the main things that leveraged us in the market is we had a very significant, unique PA system for these events that I did kind of a horizontal line array system, which has never been done before. So if you were at a wedding, no matter where you were, you had 180 degrees of balanced sound. So a lot of the same principles that Wetbox has, we brought over, and so it's you know, so he'd probably find that interesting what we did for that, because that's all
Yeah,
PA stuff for sure.
because most line arrays, as you said, they're vertical. They're like this. So you were
Correct.
doing horizontal line arrays to get a better spread left to right.
Correct. So yeah, if you're at a typical wedding, for example, you know, you've got the stage, and then you'll have people sitting completely flanking the stage, almost to the back
Yes.
wall, and then all the way around in a half circle.
Yeah.
And so typically when you're with the band, anywhere to lateral of those front mains, you got nothing.
Yes.
So we had equal sound out there. And then we also did something, you know, if you're in front of a live band, the more you're into the band, the closer to the stage you are. So if it's a sizable stage and it's 24 feet apart, your mains are in that position. And frankly, you're not hearing them. They're flanking you because you're basically in front or lateral with the mains. So we did a crossing pattern with those front mains. So we had our normal mains and then we'd X. So no matter where you were getting, so just a lot of unique stuff, again, to get sound to the ear, you know, and that's the big thing with our boats, you know, boat systems. And that's, you know, you can have a $20,000 top of the line boat system, but 80% of it is mounted in the gunnel. I mean, it's at knee level or lower. And that's what those pods are for, is, you know, if you really want to hear your system in a boat, lay down on the floor and you're going to hear a beautiful system. And as you stand up, you know, stand up, there's a marked, you know, difference. So that's what the whole point of those pods are, is that you get it where it's supposed to be, you know. So.
Wow. Yeah, it's so nice, Chris, to talk to somebody who truly understands audio. And thank you very much for being such a professional at that.
absolutely.
And to your point, Ernie just reminded me, we've got a video that you sent us where you're demonstrating just how far away you can hear these audio systems that you're designing. So
Yeah, absolutely.
if Ernie, is that queued up? Can we play that? All right, let's watch this.
So we're going to give you an idea as far as the distance these things can throw. They can do well over half a mile of sound. The true test of a speaker is every decibel you go up, that's where you really test a speaker on how clear they are. So the fact that these things are crystal clear, pushing 130 decibels, just, I mean, we don't know of anything out there that's doing it. So we're going to give you a demo. We'll give you, if you look here to the distance to this side, we're going to go down that direction, and then we're going to go back down in this direction and give you an idea how far these things can throw. It's Chris with Wetbox. Check it out. Alright, so now we're going to show you the other direction. Unfortunately, this far away, my daughter cannot see me unless I move from left to right. So I'm going to do that real quick. She's be turning it on for me. There you go. Fortunately, it's a little windy. Give you an idea where we're at. We're a long way away. And again, this is one direction. This thing's throwing the same distance in the other direction. That's why we're pretty confident, especially on the water. We're hitting over a mile.
Chris, that's just awesome. That is just amazing.
Thank you. Thank you.
You know, it's funny. You had a meter in your hand, it's showing 126 plus dB, and to put that in perspective, a lot of people will talk about jet engines or a locomotive or something like that. How loud is 126 dB approximately?
Well, like you said, 130 decibels is a jet taking off from an aircraft carrier with afterburners on. I mean, that's loud.
Yeah.
You know, the one thing people in throughout our testing we found, we did this a lot with the existing roof systems. You know, your typical system that you think is really loud, 105, 110 decibels, and it is loud. That's crazy loud.
Yes.
But a lot of people don't realize that, you know, from 110 to 120 is a full doubling of sound. So, you know, when you go, we've done, again, roof systems, they might have 12 speakers in them, 105 decibels. So that's why these things are so crazy, because they're hitting 6 times the volume and you can hold them in your arms. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's very, very loud. And the whole point is, you know, some people, well, but is it clear? Well, yes, of course. And we have testimonial after testimonial of how they compare to other brands and clarity. But the bottom line is, you can't get a speaker to hit 130 decibels without exploding unless it's some level of clarity. You know what I mean? I mean,
Yes.
you know, because once it hits that point of distortion, I mean, that thing's on its way out if it's not capable of doing it. And the irony is that when we tested those, the only amp that I had available, it was kind of short notice. Those were only 100 watts a piece. And, you know, those are rated at 150. Yeah. So
Wow.
you guys are hitting close to 130 decibels at 100 watts. So
That's
you know,
amazing.
who knows what they're going to do at 150 or slightly greater. So yeah, it's, and clean. I mean, it's a beautiful sounding speaker. It really is.
Well, thank you. I hopefully Steve Irby will be watching this the next couple of days, and he'll get goosebumps hearing your testimony.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
Tell him I'd buy him lunch if I was nearby. We appreciate him.
Well, if you're going to be in the area, please definitely make a day trip over here to see us. I'll give you a tour of the facility. We'll take you to lunch, and you can meet Steve. And we love to entertain people, so please come and join us. We'd love to have you here.
That'd be great, for sure.
We have one more question I want to take before I let you go, just to get your input on it. Ernie, what's that question we got here? Twin Lakes Audio, do you make a universal subwoofer box for boats? That's a great question.
Oh, that is a good question. You know, I would say eventually we might. At this point, no. I mean, kind of the way we've leveraged ourselves into the market is by making stuff really custom fit. You know, that's part of what gives us the ability to compete. So down the road, certainly, but at this point, we're kind of after doing something nobody else has done or can do, you know, just to help us build our brand and our business. We're, you know, so, but no, in the future, I could definitely see us doing something like that. I mean, part of the inspiration for making this enclosure, like the multi-directionals. I remember back in high school, we were all buying the most expensive subwoofers, and then there was a tube that came out, and that tube was amazing.
Yes.
And that tube had a chintzy little speaker in it, and we're all just going, "You got to be kidding me!" You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, this is when we were walking around with our $800 pull-out stereos.
Yes.
But that was an early signifier that, look, enclosures can be everything, and so that was also the premise behind this. Is when we went into this, it's like, again, whatever speaker's the best is going to get the spot in the enclosure, but let's focus on the enclosure. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
if and when we can develop a technology or a way of doing it that's better, we would. But some of the complex enclosures, we do very exotic sealed enclosures, but some of these guys are masters in their multiple band pass.
Yeah.
It gets above my pay grade. So
I doubt that, but you're being modest, I think.
for ours, they kind of have to be sealed. I mean, it's
Yes.
in our industry, when you're dealing with sand and water in Florida,
Yes.
we have our systems go underwater 3 feet at a time sometimes. So.
Yeah.
Luckily, it makes it simple in that I got to capture the airspace and rigidity, and I don't have to worry about a lot of the really advanced stuff that goes into master enclosure making. But we nail the we nail the sealed stuff, I think.
So I have one last question before I let you go, Chris. And this is more of a personal question: is what was the very first audio system you ever had as your upgrade? What car and what did you put in?
That's back to that Camaro. So that was the Camaro. Started with 6x9s. I bought the car. I had my first job when I don't think I was quite 12 yet.
Oh my gosh.
Arizona was a right to work state, and I worked at Denny's. So saved up some money and piece by piece, painted the car and then started building the system. It started with 6x9s. Then of course the head unit, I remember, I think the head unit was $689.
Wow.
Back then, it'd be like a $3,000 head unit now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, we pulled them out, walking around. Oh, nobody's gonna steal this thing because I'm
Lego.
taking it with my lunch,
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So, and then from there it went to the dash, hearing what the little 4x6 plates could do, that 2-inch driver in a dash. And then I, of course, can't leave that alone. So I replaced that. I think I went 6.5s and then saw what that did. And then from there, it was 8s. The Camaro had that really cool cubby that was in the low area. So I put 8s in the back and they absolutely pounded.
Yes.
But that wasn't enough. So I'm like, all right, well, let's do that with 12s too. So I put in 4 12s plus the 8s.
Oh, wow.
I want 15s instead. And then I went to 15. And it was, every panel was off of that car. Every panel was off. And this was early days of Dynamat, so I made my own sound deadening material. I'm telling you, in that car, if we'd have hit a semi, I think we'd have taken it out. It was, a built sports car probably couldn't break 75 if I floored it, just from the stereo stuff in it. But then the next step was the doors. And then that was magical when that happened, because that showed, when you hear vehicles with overwhelming bass, but the highs don't balance it. What Wetbox, if you look at our customer reviews, you might have a picture where there's 40 people that have commented on what we do. But when you can make the highs keep up with amazing bass, the feedback over and over again is concert. It sounds like a concert. It sounds like a concert. And so many people kind of do one or the other, especially nowadays with some of those harsh horns. And so that's our thing, is to, when I found that in the doors, that when those opened up and you could go, infinite distance and get that projection, that taught me something as well. So then I went from that to a single cab truck, it was a Mazda. It had 38 speakers, if memory serves.
Oh my God.
And then it's kind of my hobby, And then, and then my boat. The boat was really the coolest. We in Lake Havasu, that's where I grew up, went to high school.
Oh, really? You're Havasu, right? Yeah. Okay. Desert Storm.
Yeah. So lots of manufacturers out there.
Yes.
So I was able to work on a lot of, boats coming out of mold and stuff. So my boat was only a 22-foot boat, had 68 speakers, 95% were hidden, and that was a fun system to build.
Incredible.
But back then the biggest challenge was just supplying enough power, battery power.
Yes,
That's what's so
yes.
cool about these new amps. The new amps you guys are doing. I mean, they're all, they're so much more efficient than they used to be.
Yes,
Yeah, for
small,
sure.
watertight, and efficient. That's
Yeah.
great.
Oh, and let me tell you, that watertight is everything. I'll get people on the phone that are very sweet people, and hey, what do you run? Oh, I've got this, that. Oh, I've already got an amp, for the side-by-side market. Oh, well, it's a regular car amp. I'm like, oh, can't do it, man. No, well then it's a marine amp, and I'm like, well, marine amps should be in the marina. You need something that can get mud and water all over it and go underwater, right? So, when people start to understand that's, because you don't want to have something fail, and you got to understand that's the harshest conditions anywhere. A boat is a cakewalk in conditions. Even salt water is a cakewalk in comparison to what side by sides can get thrown at them. So,
especially you guys in Florida. There's jokes about Florida for a good reason.
It's so funny because I've got an Arizona number, so people will call me and but I go in the water, I get wet. I'm in Florida. I'm like, dude, I'm in your backyard. Believe me.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Chris, this has been great. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your vacation. Thank your wife and your family for letting you share some time with us.
Let me let them say hi. Come say hi, guys.
Oh, you got the family there.
You can come see my team. This is my lovely wife, Megan.
Hi there.
And this is Layla.
Hi.
She's my packaging and wiring girl. So.
And where's the sweeper?
I think he's outside playing Minecraft or something.
Okay. Well,
he would have been talking the whole time. He's 10, so he'd have been jibber jabbering.
Yeah. Good. Well, thank you guys for your time, and we appreciate you being here. And hopefully, we'll see you at Slamology if you make it out there. That'd be great.
Yeah, I'll look it up, but please send me the info. I'll definitely come out. I'll join you guys and check it out for sure.
All right. Thank you, guys. Good night.
All right, thank you. All right. Have a great night.
Well, friends, that was Chris with Wetbox, and they're going to go back to their family vacation, and we're going to take a short break. We'll be right back, so please stay tuned.
Kicker Performance Audio. For almost 50 years, we've been rocking the planet with our world-class product covering everything that drives you, whether in your car, truck, boat, motorcycle, side-by-side, or even on your head. Kicker Performance Audio's passion for bringing you your favorite music like you've never heard it before is what drives us. So wherever you need us, Kicker Performance Audio will be there for you.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for still being here. Obviously, Mr. Jacob Lucky has joined us on stage here, and we want to talk to Jacob. But first, did you guys notice this? I kind of had it hidden over here earlier, but I wanted you to see this. This is a new tumbler. This is one of our prizes tonight. This is the third place prize. You get a new 50th anniversary Kicker tumbler. It's got the Kicker kicking horse logo on one side, the Bucking Bronco, and then the other side. What? Fish tank? Okay, by the fish tank. Okay,
yeah,
Ernie's hollering at me.
In front of the fish tank.
Okay, so do the close-up of the fish tank.
I'm trying to get in the field of view here. I don't know.
All right, we didn't practice this, as you could tell, but so that is the new third prize. So the third prize winner tonight is going to get this tumbler. So thank you very much for sticking with us, and hopefully you'll win something tonight. So Jacob, you just had an incredible experience in Arizona. Tell us, what have you been doing with yourself?
Well, we just got back from Nostratech Expo. John and I went there and had a pretty awesome experience. So we get there, and the first thing that they have scheduled for the event is like a live concert and kind of like a meet and greet and hangout for everybody. So we hung out in this amphitheater, listened to some live music. I got to meet some other guys that came. At that point, I think I met Matt Mergenthal, and I mean, I've known Matt, but I saw him there, and a couple of the other JL guys and people from different companies like JD Glassworks and
a lot of celebrities.
Yeah, a lot of like of the top level installers in our industry were there. And then over the next couple of days, we went to several trainings, and if you guys don't know, you can take and sign up, and you take like a course, like a block of set classes. There was one for 12 volt installation, basically. There was one for like the School of Fab, and then there was another one. I don't remember what the third one was.
It was CAD CAM.
Something like
right?
that, yeah. But I went to the Modern Tech, or the 12 volt section, so I got to soak up a lot of information from Andy Waymeyer and Ken Ward. They put on 2 of the trainings for that, and then after the fact, you could take some electives, and I went down the route of marketing, so I learned about luxury marketing and some other things like that. But other than the trainings and learning a whole lot of stuff, the show floor was super cool. There were several cars out there. I can't remember the guy's name, but basically there was a legendary Regal there. It was purple, and I can't remember the guy's name.
Is that Gary Biggs?
Yeah, Gary Biggs Regal was there. And a couple other super cool cars.
And world famous car builder, I can picture him, but I can't suddenly think of his name. Chip Foose.
Yeah, Chip Foose was there. He was, I think he was a keynote speaker. And then we had a couple of competitions. There was a clean wire competition that was put on by Dean and Fernando, and then like a fabrication contest. I mean, there was so much going on. It was really a great event, and I can't wait to go next year. Honestly, it was so much fun, and I learned so much. It was too cool.
One of the cool things you were talking about in my office the other day is someone put it into perspective. In a subwoofer, if you go from 80 hertz, 1 octave lower to 40 hertz, what happens?
Well, your cone movement quadruples. So that was not, I always knew that lowering the frequency that the subwoofer was playing was going to increase your cone movement, right? But I didn't know that that was the relationship, that 1/2 the frequency was 4 times the movement. And when you talk about unloading, well, that's exactly what's happening. So kind of neat to put it in perspective.
Yeah, it's amazing. And that's why we always recommend subsonic filters for subwoofers and subsystems, because if you've got maybe a 10-inch driver and is trying to play 20 hertz at 130 decibels, it just can't physically move that far. So a subsonic filter filters out the frequencies that are useless information, by the way. So while Jacob was hanging out in Arizona with a bunch of cool cats, I was actually hanging out in Europe with a bunch of cool cats. So David Glasgow, one of our international sales managers, he and I were traveling around Europe doing a marine training. So we had several different marine distributors. We started off in France. We landed in Paris, went to Nantes, France, which is not a typo, Nantes, France. And we worked with our Kent Marine distributor there. And we did a training with a bunch of their staff and got them up to speed on our products. And then we hopped over to Italy, Genoa, Italy. And we worked with our marine distributor down there. And they actually brought in a bunch of their dealers. And so we did about a 90-minute training on Kicker products, everything you see here, and how to tune amplifiers and stuff. And then the third stop was Bremen, Germany. So we did 3 major countries in this 9-day, 10-day period. And man, it was grueling. And of course, when you tell your wife you're going to Europe and you're going to 3 different countries, your wife thinks, oh my God, you're going to have an amazing time. You're going to meet all these cool people and you're going to eat all this food. And, well, actually, you see a lot of airports, a lot of train stations, a lot of hotel rooms. That's what you see a lot of. So yes, is it fun? Of course it's fun.
Yeah,
but it's also a lot of work.
How many hotels do you say you stayed in over the course of a week?
we stayed in each hotel was 2 nights. So what is that, 10 days? So we stayed in about 5 different hotels.
That's a lot of packing up and moving and flying, and yeah, it just sounds like a lot of work.
It was, but one of the highlights was driving the German Autobahn. Holy cow, that is a lot of fun. Highly recommend it. We had a rental car, of course, because I don't own a car in Germany. We rented a Mercedes B-Class, which, Mike, if you're watching, the B-Class is before the C and after the A. It fits right in the middle, the B-Class. Mike, you know what I'm talking about. So we rented a B-Class Mercedes, and the 3 of us are on the Autobahn doing 130 kilometers an hour, and we're getting passed. And I'm like, I'm not going to drive any faster because I'm afraid, but they're still flashing their lights and they're passing us. So that was just awesome highlight. But so anyway, yes, we do have glamorous jobs. We love it. And thank you, men and women, for supporting us by buying our wonderful products. We appreciate it. So that's what we've been doing. Now, Jacob's got some questions of the week. He always takes these tech support questions and he loves to share them with you. So he has hand-picked 3 of the questions of the week. So Jacob, what do we got?
Yep, so the first question, somebody's asking, I have a KMC5 radio that powers up and plays normally. However, it has almost no output on the subwoofer RCA. How can I fix this? So with KMC radios, the first thing that I always suggest is performing a factory reset on them. 9 times out of 10, that's going to fix your problem. If it doesn't fix your problem, then you can always give us a call. But in this particular case, having low output on the subwoofer channel is actually something that we're aware of. It was an issue at one point, but we actually updated the software to fix the problem. So what I would suggest in this guy's case is to contact us so that he can get the updated software from tech support and he can actually update it himself and fix that problem on his radio. So that's going to be the resolution there.
Real quick before you go on, hey Ernie, can you pull up my laptop? I want to show our friends, if you go to kicker.com and you go to Marine, right here you see Marine drop down, and you go to Media Centers, the KMC5 has a software update which you can access from our website directly. So you can still call tech support to get the help walking through the process, or you can just go right here, software update, and we'll walk you through it.
I didn't realize they put it on the website now.
Yeah, we try to make it easier.
Of course, this was a new development whenever I was just leaving tech support.
Yes.
We just found out, so I guess they...
So that's where you can do the update yourself, or like Jacob said, if you want someone to walk you through it, give us a call. We'll absolutely walk you through it. So, okay, your next question, what's that?
Yeah, so number 2, I have your KM654 speakers with LEDs in them, and I hear buzzing, but only when the LEDs are on. How can I fix this? Well, there's a couple different things that could cause that. So our LEDs use what's called, I believe it's called pulse width modulation, right, Aaron? Where
PWM.
Yep, where they take and essentially use like, I guess if you looked at it on a scope, it would look like a square wave, and running it at that pulse width, depending on, I'm going to do a really horrible job of explaining this, but essentially that will change the color of the LEDs, and you'll hear different buzzing frequencies through the speakers if it's ran next to your RCAs or something like that. So generally speaking, the fix to that problem is going to be to just move your LED wires away from your RCAs if they're ran next to it at any point in the boat, because you'll be picking up that electromagnetic interference on your RCAs, and your amplifiers going to amplify it. So first thing, move your wires, and second thing, get a better ground. If you don't have everything grounded directly to the battery, do so, and 9 times out of 10 that'll fix it.
Another thing we were talking about during these trainings I was doing in Europe last week is in boat installs, best practices is to always rewire the radio power and ground away from the helm controls, because it's electrically very noisy. So when you're adding an aftermarket audio system or even upgrading a factory installed audio system, moving your power and ground away from the helm controls and going straight to the battery solves a lot of noise problems. So that's all related to what Jacob has been talking about. So, third question.
Third question, we've got another one about a KMC5. I want my KMC5 to have different volume control for Zone 1 and Zone 2. Currently they're tied together. How can I accomplish this? So on the KMC5, you can actually go in the settings and navigate to your volume controls, and you can set it to either absolute or relative. And absolute is where you're going to have an independent control over Zone 1 and Zone 2 volumes, and relative is where they're tied together. So yeah, if you've got, if you're just wanting independent volume control, then you're going to want to go in and set it to absolute.
Another nice benefit of the Zone 2 on the KMC5 is you can actually have a separate source playing on Zone 2. So for example, if mom and dad are listening to jazz music on Zone 1, the kids can be listening to, I don't know, whatever's cool today on Zone 2, and maybe they're on the swim deck. So you can have different volume, but also different sources on the KMC5. And that's another of the benefits we were talking about in Europe last week is the KMC5 has 6 channels of amplification on board. So you actually get a true Class D amplifier that's 40 watts per channel by 6 channels at 2 ohms. So it's a ton of power, and the radio itself is fused at 15 amps. So even if you have a smaller boat with a smaller charging system, without adding additional amplifiers, you can get an awful lot of sound from a KMC5 and 6 speakers, or even 12 speakers if you wire it down to 2 ohms.
Yeah, each of those channels are 2 ohm stable, so theoretically you could have up to 12 4 ohm speakers connected to that radio. So yeah,
it's a great radio for any audio system. So that's your 3 questions. Awesome, thank you. Now let's look at some fun pictures. Ernie, we want to see my pictures, which of course I said that before I got there. Let's pull up, first of all, our don't do this at home pictures of the week. Ernie, can you show my laptop here? So this is the first do not do this at home picture. Now, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. You can see they've got some nice gear. Couple of JL amplifiers, looks like a slash 1001, I think, what they call that. So you got some great amplifiers in here, but nothing is properly mounted, and the wires are just all over the place. So yeah, good gear, but improperly installed. Like Chris was saying with Wetbox, it doesn't matter how good your gear is. If it's not properly installed, you're not going to have a good experience.
Yeah, I don't even know where to start with that one, man. I mean, just not even looking at what all is close to us, but if you look further up in the vehicle, there's even more stuff that's just like,
yeah.
I mean, it looks like they've got the seat out, so maybe this isn't complete.
Finished?
Maybe it's not, hopefully it's not finished.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's just so much going on here. I don't even know where to start.
Yeah, yeah. So again, if this is your vehicle, we're not trying to make fun of you. We're just helping everybody realize these are some things you don't necessarily want to do with your system. So next up, this, I love this. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. These are, first of all, it's a headphone output on mixer board, and it splits to a left and right RCA, and then a left-only left and right RCA, and I get lost right about there. I don't know if they are splitting or mixing or summing or what the heck they're doing, but ultimately this is a terrible idea.
They're trying to build the Leaning Tower of Pisa is what they're doing.
Yeah. And I guarantee you at the end of this, there's a lot of noise coming out of the audio system. So yes, please don't do that at home or in your car. Let's go to the next picture. This, okay.
Is that a bullet?
Yes, yes it is. Now look closely. At the bottom you've got an intact, looks like probably a 22, and then you go up to and you've got a definitely not intact bullet. So clearly it's still conducting electricity, but at some point the gunpowder went kapooey and came shooting out the side of that.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
and then look up here. Now,
is that oh, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, it's not a conductor. So that is definitely not conducting any electricity. It's filling a space, but it's not conducting anything.
How many amps do you think those bullets will take, Aaron? You think they're good for like 30 amps or something?
About
20.
Ernie says about 22 amps. So yeah, you got 22 amps there. So yeah, let's not do that. All right, next picture. Now this, unfortunately, this is kind of common. So this looks like maybe a I don't know, 4-door. Is that a 6x8 or I can't tell if it's a 6x8 or 6x9.
It could be. It looks like a 6x9 bracket, but it could be anything, man. It's
So
hard to tell.
somebody bought a nice component system. I'm not sure what brand that is, but it looks like a decent component system. And instead of getting the proper adapter to fill the gap, they simply bolted in the speaker and probably put the door panel back on and wondered why it sounded terrible. And of course, there's no separation from the speaker front to back, so all you're getting is the highest mid-range coming out of that speaker. There's no mid-bass at all, and definitely no bass. So yeah, you definitely don't want to be mounting speakers like this. No matter how good the speaker is, if you don't separate the front of the speaker from the back of the speaker, you're getting cancellation, and it's just not going to sound good at all. So yeah, let's definitely not do that. Now let's transition into some good-looking audio systems. So the first one, John Myers always sends these to me, and this is cool. Now, based on the colors, I'm going to guess that someone chose, of course, our new retro 50th anniversary Competition Gold series, and then they have painted these to match probably the exterior paint color of the car or pickup. I'm thinking this is probably a trunk, Jacob. You think that's a trunk and a big old sedan?
Yeah, it's either that or, I mean, maybe it's, those kind of look like wheel wells on the side. So
oh, yeah.
What I see people do a lot is when there's not a speaker location available, like in classic cars or things like that, they're going to build those enclosures like what we see in the back with the 6x9. So I almost wonder if this is like an old, maybe like an old Bronco or something, or I don't know, where they put those enclosures. It's really hard to tell just from the picture, but
sure.
Maybe they didn't have speaker locations available back there and they built those 6x9s, and looks like they're saying it's a 56 Chevy.
Oh, somebody can tell? What?
Well, that's Bill's picture
Oh.
he sent to us.
Thank you, Bill. 56 Chevy.
Yeah, so exactly, no factory speaker locations, classic car, and they built those enclosures back there. So
I like how they took the grills off and color matched them with the vehicle. That's just a nice touch.
is that the bed, Bill?
Let me come back here. No, that's got to be the trunk.
What? It's a wagon.
Oh, it's
okay.
a wagon.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Oh, so that means it's a Chevy Nomad, right? Is the Nomad the wagon?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a Nomad. Look at me knowing stuff about cars.
I know. It's kind of weird.
Now this is fantastic. This has got to be 3/8, and it looks like it's probably ported because they've got this little section over here with some nice highlights.
I don't know if that's a port or if that's like an acrylic window, but whatever it is, it looks super cool.
Very clean.
It's all recessed too, so
Yes.
those subs don't stick out very much from the box, if at all.
Yeah.
That would be really hard to build because then you've got to fold that vinyl down around that recessed edge and make it look good without splitting. So yeah, that looks awesome.
I bet whoever built this went to Brian Schmidt's school.
You're probably right.
I bet they did, because that is clean and tight. It's better than factory. It's what?
An MTI enclosure.
Oh, it's an MTI enclosure. Oh, that explains why it looks so fantastic. Thank you, MTI. That is a nice looking box. Next up, I think this is a boat. Well, of course, it's Marine Speakers. And it looks like down here it reads, is that Speedster? I think that reads Speedster there. And then this, I'm not sure what this acrylic window is for. It may be a subwoofer enclosure, or maybe it's a wet bar. I don't know what it is, but nice looking install.
Did we get more pictures of that, or is that all we have?
No, this is what John sent me today.
Gotcha.
And I don't know if he took this himself or not, but yeah, that's beautiful. I like how they color match the LEDs to the interior of the boat too.
Oh yeah, that's super awesome.
And I'm sure at night, wow, just sexy on the water for sure. And then this actually came to us. We were doing some training for our friends over at Crutchfield a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about some kicker systems of people that work there, and they sent us this picture, and I forget what kind of vehicle this is. I think it's a pickup. But they've got 2 subwoofers in the floor, and then they've got the mid-range drivers, and of course they added the nice kicker logo in 3 places.
Yeah.
And then it looks like a Kenwood 5-channel amplifier, perhaps.
You know, I gotta say, it's nice to see a build using like our Comp Cs or something, instead of like, we see a lot of like our Comp Rs and Comp Qs or L7s and builds and stuff, but it's also cool to see Comp Cs, and it looks like CS products there too. So, you know, you can make awesome system with pretty much any level of product. It's just, it's a nice change, you know?
It is, and it's also a good testament to a great product properly installed gives you great results. And I'm sure this system sounds very nice and well balanced as well.
Absolutely.
So cool, thank you for that. I forgot to write down whose picture that was, so if you're watching tonight from Crushfield, please, I apologize I didn't give your name on this because I forgot to take your name down, but thank you for the picture. That's fantastic. So we've done our pictures, we've done our fails, we've done pretty much everything except what's upcoming. So let's talk about events. Let me flip over here to Facebook. Ernie, can you show my laptop again? We got some events coming up. There's a lot. Of course, this is spring. Spring starts next Monday, to be exact. Yeah. And so there's a lot of cool stuff coming up. Of course, we got tonight, woohoo, great sound on your boat and your side-by-side. But Audio Concepts Spring Showdown in Fresno, California, that's coming up Sunday, March 19th. So if you're in the Fresno area, please check that out. That should be a good time. Sinoia Short Track Race, of course, that's part of our flat track race there. And that's the March 25th, Saturday, March 25th, so check that out. We've got a bunch of arena cross stuff coming up. So no matter where you are in the country, you'll see they're all over the place. Lots of flat track stuff. And I haven't had the chance to make one of those yet, but I know John Myers worked the one last year in Oklahoma City. Were you there? I don't know. You weren't on our team yet last year, so you didn't get to check that out. But John had a great time at that show. Big bikes, big motors going really fast, and lots of sliding going on. So that's kind of fun to check that out.
Right up John's alley.
Yes, it is. Something else we want to tell you about, Mark Eldridge, who's out of Bixby, Oklahoma, which is just about an hour and a half from here. He has a class coming up, and I've got some information about his class. You have seen Mark Eldridge on UnMasked before. He is a friend of Kicker. He used to work for Kicker many, many years ago, and now he's out on his own, but he has got a class coming up. Here's the image. Ernie, can you throw this up? Advanced Sound Quality Seminar. And this guy has forgotten more about sound quality than almost anybody can tell you today. This guy is an absolute master of sound quality. And what's cool is that in his classes, he doesn't start out in a car. He starts out in a studio. And as you can see in this image here, he's got a bunch of high-performance home and pro sound speakers. And so he teaches the science of sound before adapting that to the vehicle. Because as you're aware, in a room like this, sound is going to be very different than the exact same speakers in a car or a pickup or an SUV. So he talks about the science behind that. And so that's coming up April 22nd and 23rd. And I don't know if it's sold out or not yet, but he does sell out quickly. They're relatively small classes. It's very personal, very hands-on, like this. Not quite like that, but well, I guess you can't see how I'm touching Jacob's arm, so it's not quite that hands-on. But he does a great job. So if you want to check out one of his classes, you'll have a great experience and you'll learn a ton. So that's coming up. We also have... Oh, the other slide? Okay, so Ernie is hollering at me, telling me to pull up the other image here. Well, I'm not going to read that to the audience, Ernie.
That's just their information to do.
Okay, go ahead and screenshot this. I'll give you a couple of seconds to screenshot this. It's just a whole bunch of stuff going on there. And it's pretty intense. I think it's just a 2-day event.
Well, it's all day, though, too.
Saturday and Sunday, yes, 2 days. And so he packs a bunch of info into that short amount of time. So your head's gonna be swimming, but you'll walk away knowing a lot. In fact, we had talked about getting our team up there at some point to go through his class. I don't know when that's going to happen. Obviously not April 22nd and 23rd, but that would be an amazing experience.
And if you guys are curious maybe a little bit more about what goes on in that class, a couple of guys that I know of who have been, Drew Jones has been, I think we all know Drew, and then I think some of the JL guys went as well. They came up and went to Mark Eldridge's training, and while they were here, we showed them around the headquarters. So maybe get in touch with some of those guys and see if it's something you want to do. But if you're interested in learning more about sound quality or just music in general, I strongly recommend going to Mark Eldridge's course.
You will not regret the money spent. It's actually very inexpensive for what he teaches too. Desert Storm Lake Havasu is coming up. Chris at Wetbox mentioned he used to live in Lake Havasu, and you've heard us talk about this show many times, but Desert Storm is an incredible boat show. And you want to talk about some marine audio? Last year about this time we talked to Jeff. I can never say his last name properly. Can you say Cuvier? Jeff, you know who you are. We had him on.
Jeff Cuvelier, I think.
Cuvelier.
Yep.
And he's got some incredible audio systems that he builds for Lake Havasu. And he's putting, 3 L7 15s on his boat. So, yeah, incredible. So that show's coming up as well. So, that being said, let's give away some prizes. We have 3 winners tonight, and we've changed up the prizes just a little bit. First place is getting I don't have one here, a Bullfrog, a BF100. We should get a BF100. The first place winner is getting a Bullfrog 100 and a t-shirt and the 2 koozies. Second place is getting the EB400 in-the-ear waterproof Bluetooth headset. And then third place, you're getting our latest tumbler, our 50th anniversary tumbler. So let's go with third place winner. Bill, can you throw us up the third place winner tonight? Chris W. from Kentucky. Chris W. Kentucky. Woohoo! You are getting the newest tumbler, as well as a t-shirt, and of course 2 koozies, so send us your t-shirt size. Second place winner, number 2, who's going home, number 2 winner? Corbin B. from Oklahoma. Corbin B. Oklahoma. Depending on how far you are, maybe you can just drive on over here to pick up your prize, Corbin B. Be great to have you. If you do want to come, Corbin, let us know you're coming, and one of us who's available will give you a full facility tour. Since you're so close, we'll give you a great tour. You'll have a great time. So second place winner, Corbin B., you get the EB400s, the t-shirt, 2 koozies, and the grand prize winner tonight is Noah H. from Florida. Noah, you are getting a BF100, which does float, by the way.
It does.
I travel with a BF100. I take it to all my hotel rooms. It plays my jams when I'm in the shower because it's waterproof. And then when I get, well, it's not in the shower, but it's in the bathroom with me.
Well, it could be. Do all your neighbors hear it too?
Well, I don't know. I don't care. But the BF100 is fantastic. It does have actually, you can use it as a hands-free telephone. If you want to do a conference call, you can put it down. You can use it as a hands-free conference call center.
About that.
You also get a t-shirt and, of course, the 2 koozies. So thank you very much. 1, 2, and 3 winners. Send us your information so you get the correct size t-shirt. And I want to remind you, tonight after we're done, when Jacob and I go home, Andy is going to be on Kicking It with Andy. He does the after party. And Andy, thank you very much for keeping the fun rolling after party. And of course, you want to do Living Loud with Andy on YouTube and Facebook. Join his groups, hang out with him, subscribe. He probably talks more than we do on his programs because he has more time than we do. So that's fantastic. Thank you very much, Andy. Appreciate that. The next UnMasked show is next Tuesday, March 28th. March 28th is the next show, and I don't know who's going to be on that show yet, but
I think it's going to be John and possibly me.
John and possibly you?
Yeah, I don't know yet.
Oh, and Jacob has been working on something really cool to show you guys and girls. Let's not give it away, but let's just say that there might be, well, there will definitely be smoke.
There's definitely going to be smoke.
There's going to be smoke. So you're going to want to check that out. So on the next UnMasked, Tuesday, March 28th, tune in then. Ernie, I'm going to end the show, so please get ready. 3, 2, 1, and we're done. Good night, folks.